Alright, so in this video we're going to learn how to rig a simple item. By the end of this class, or this video, we'll have this thing set up for animation. And let's see, I can move this back and forth. I can grab these controls and rotate them correctly. I can grab this and rotate that. Now I can't rotate it in directions that I don't want to be able to rotate it, which is, that one or this one. Alright, so I'm going to Save this. And I'm going to open up the stick rig start. So I've made my project, copied this file in there. I'm going to turn on under shading wireframe unshaded. That way it's easier to see everything. And let's assess what we have. So I got a platform. I can move around anywhere. Got these leg parts, those can move around too. There's also some hinge things here, those can move around as well. And these things can also move, okay? There's a background, and there's a guide locator over there. So what we want to do is we want to be able to rig this so that it's easier for us to take this whole thing and move it over and have everything kind of come with it, okay? We also want to make sure that we don't accidentally, select stuff. So we don't want to be able to select the background, but we do want to see it. So there are some layers over here, and you'll see that there's a geometry, a guides, and a controls. So if I hit the geometry, you'll see that basically everything disappears, all the geometry. And these are layers that I already set up, so you have them to use. I'm going to make a new one for this background, so I'm just going to click on the background, make a new layer. That's a far right button right there, and that will automatically assign it. So I'm just going to call this BG, background. And I still want to see it, especially when I'm animating, but I don't want to select it at the moment. So I'm going to click this far right button here, and that should turn it into a T, which means it's there, I can see it, but it's in wireframe. If I click it again, now it's an R, which means that once I deselect, I can't reselect it. Okay, I can go to the outliner and grab it, but I can't just select it right here. Okay, so now that's out of the way. The guides, that's just that one locator, so I can click that off. I don't need to see that right now. Our main focus is right here. So we need to look at how this thing is animating, or going to be animating, and what controls we're going to use. Okay, so I've created these arrows. I actually went into Illustrator, drew these arrows out, saved as an Illustrator 8 file. That's very important. And then I went to create Illustrator object, said curves, create, and that brings the curves in, and then I can move them, center them, whatever else. So basically I drew them out in Illustrator, brought them in here, positioned them where I want them. So you'll see, they're centered on this beam. It's centered this way pretty much. I don't know if it's perfectly centered, but that's pretty good. And then I've frozen the transforms so that we don't have any translates, rotates, or scales. It's basically just back to the default. And that's the same thing for all of these things here. Okay. You'll also notice that this one is green. And the reason that one's green is because it's on this controls layer. And that controls layer has a green color. If I turn that off, you'll see that that goes away, but the other ones don't. Eventually they'll all be on that layer, but for now that's just sitting there. So this arrow is left and right, so it'll move left and right. We can also probably add some rotation in here like this, but we wouldn't add any, rotation this way for the platform. Or really this way for the platform, because our arms and hinges here are not really set up for that. Okay, if these were ball hinges, then definitely they could be rotated in any direction. We would get that motion. But for now, we're going to keep it simple, left and right, up and down, and then simple rotate like so. Okay. So before I get into any rigging part of this, or before I get into actually adding the controls, I need to just do a little bit of maintenance over here. So looking at this, I need to see what's going to move with what. Okay, so I have all these arrows. Now if I move this top arrow, let's say I move it left and right. Okay, so that means that I want all the arrows to go. Okay, so this is going to be like the root or the main curve. but these curves have specific interests. When I take this one and I were to, let's say, rotate this curve, the ones above it aren't going to be affected, but the one below it would. Okay, so this here, if I just take this and, you know, like that, the only one that should move is this one. That one should also like rotate like that. So I'm going to join these together over here in the outliner. You can do it out there. It's just a lot easier to visualize and to actually do when it's over here. So I'm just going to take this arms 5 control. I'm going to middle drag it into arms 4. Now I've already labeled these so that 5 is at the bottom, 4, 3, 2, 1, and main body. So that should make our job a little bit easier. So I'm just middle dragging, click first, middle drag, click first, middle drag. Okay. So now this one should be at the bottom of that, then this one, then this one, then this one, then that one, and then that's the top. If I come over here and hit this plus sign, you'll see there's arm 1. Open that up. There's arm 2. Open that up. There's 3. Open that up. There's 4. Open that up. And 5. Okay. So now all of these are lined up where they should be. Now, I manually clicked these open. Here's a quick way. Hold Shift and click, and it'll open all of them. Okay. So it's just a quick way to expand something. This is very minimal compared to a skeleton for a human. Would have, you know, a lot more. All right, so that gives me that base control. Now, just so you can see, if I move the top one, all the bottom ones underneath move. If I rotate this one, you'll see all the bottom ones underneath that one move, and so on. Okay, and I go to the very bottom, or a second to the bottom, that one, go to the very bottom. And you'll see how I'm switching between the move tool and the rotate tool. You can't select with this rotate tool because it doesn't let you select with that big sphere around it. So I switch to the move or select tool, then click, then switch back to rotate. Again, why hotkeys are important. Alright, next step, I need to actually control stuff. So I'm going to use the outliner. Again, it's the easiest way to do it. So I'm just going to hold Shift and expand that. I'm going to open up this main object. So basically I want these curves to control these items. Okay? And I'm going to start at the bottom and I'll work my way up to the top. So I'm going to use my constraints. So in the definitions video I go through what the constraints do, so you could and should definitely check that out. I'm going to use a parent constraint. Okay, so I'm going to parent constrain the position and rotation for these two items so that they move the same way that this curve moves. Okay, so I click on the curve first. I control click the bar. Again, they're labeled in the same fashion that I've labeled these. And I'm going to go to constrain parent option box. I'll hit reset. And everything should be just default setup. I hit add, and there we go. Now, we didn't see anything magical happen here, but obviously over here, this now turned blue. The order is very important. You always grab the controller first, and then you control grab the controlled item, and then you would go to constrain parent. Okay, now also what's happening over here is you'll see a little plus sign. That's the parent constraint. So now if I click on this curve, it'll rotate both pieces. Okay, so number 5 is controlling both of these. Now you have to do them individually. So number 4, control click that, constrain parent. Number 4, control click that, constrain parent. Number 3, doesn't matter which order I do it here. Okay, now I'm just going to hit G when I start doing these. Okay, 2, hit G. Hit G. Okay, now you'll see I'm deselecting and then reselecting that. As long as this is the last selected, we good. This one, base, that. Alright, so let's take a look and see. So now everything's parented. So now I'm going to grab the main controller, go to the move tool and rotate it, or move it. Everything moves. Go to my rotate, that works. If I rotate in the wrong direction, that also works, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure it's undid. make sure that as we're working with this, we always reset these back to zeros and ones. If I start scaling stuff, it's going to break. So don't do that. If I grab this and rotate, that works. If I grab this one and rotate, that works. And again, why it's kind of easier to select things here, because you don't have to shift your tools around. Cool. And magical, if I grab, click and drag on all 5 of these, and then drag, you'll get this like arcing. Cool. So everything's undone. It's back to where it was before. All my rotates are 0. All my translates are 0. Nothing is out of place. I'm going to take this main object. This is on the geometry layer. You can see geometry here, geometry there. I'm done messing around with it, so I'm just going to lock that too. So I'm going to put that on reference. That way I can't accidentally grab that piece and move it off. Okay? Usually that's what happens is people grab stuff and they move it. Oops. Let's say move it, and then stuff just gets broken. Okay, so we don't want that, so it's locked, we can't do that. Now, that works. Everything works there, so I can move this, I can rotate it. Oops. Now, I want to set up some locks on this so that I don't accidentally rotate it in a direction I shouldn't. Okay, so I don't want to rotate it like this. That's bad, because there's no reason for it to rotate like that. And the same thing here. There's no reason for this to rotate like that. So I'm going to lock certain attributes. So this one here, I want to be able to do this because he'll rotate like that. And I want to be able to move this that way, and I want to be able to move it this way. Okay, and I may even want to move it, depth-wise. If I have multiple ones of these, I may want to move it depth-wise. Okay, so all the translates I'm going to keep open. The rotate, I'm going to rotate in the direction I want and look at which one's changing. Rotate Z changes, that's the one I'm going to keep. Okay, so I'm going to keep this one and keep these 3. So rotate X, rotate Y, all my scales and visibility need to go bye-bye. So I'm going to click and drag on the rotate XY, hold control, drag down here. Then I'm going to go up to channels, and I'm going to say lock and hide selected. What this will do is it'll lock it so we can't move those things, and it'll hide it so we can't even see those things. Okay, so now they're gone. So now if I try to rotate it in the direction, it just won't let me. Okay, so perfect. Now let's do the same thing on these ARM controllers down here. Again, it's easier to select them, in the outliner. Let's see which direction they're rotating in. So that's just the blue direction, which is the Z direction. So I'm going to grab all these, hold control, drag all these, right click, lock and hide. So now we have this thing rigged. So I can move it where I need to move it. I can rotate it. I can even grab these. Now, because this is on a reference layer, I can actually marquee, and it'll grab all 5 of those. I won't select any of the geometry, and all that works. Hit undo. We're good to go. So I'm going to save this as Sarcona stick rigged. Yes, yes. Continue. Okay, so that way this is my rigged one. This is the one that I would actually go ahead and animate. Cool. So simple rig, easy, easy transition into our next stuff we're going to do after this assignment, which is going to be working with other rigs. But you'll see the benefit of this versus trying to manually move each one of these discs around and rotate each one of these things. Much easier to do this, and rigging is it's a job in itself. So I will see you in the next video.